the last question we have is probably the most difficult. Um, it's an opinion question again here.
I have a couple of opinions.
I think so, and I appreciate that about you. Is Eagle Mountain City doing enough to preserve open spaces and the wildlife corridor? And if not currently, what could the city do better, and what can residents do?
I really do love this question because it feels like a softball. So really, Eagle Mountain currently is the template that other locations are looking at.
Yes.
We are doing more than anyone that I know of. So I thought it was really, I enjoyed an article not too long ago that was about a plan that Salt Lake City put together. And the short of it is their plan was a 20-year plan. They hoped in that time to be able to dedicate 6,500 acres of parks, trails, and open space in a 20-year period. The reason why that made me smile is because that's exactly where Eagle Mountain is today.
Yeah.
We've accomplished most of that in just the last 5 years. Now, are we done? No, not even close. We have a lot of work yet to do. So, there is more to do. We've done a lot. And, how long has it been? Was it about a year or so ago that we had, I think, just about all of the wildlife resource people from DNR here in our city? They came here to see how Eagle Mountain does it.
That's right.
And take that back to their areas. And I occasionally get calls from mayors and council members from other cities asking for insight. How did you do this? What do we need to do? Who do we need to talk to? Things like that. No, have we done enough? We've done more than anybody, but have we done enough? No. And is there more to do? There most definitely is more to do. So we have geographically, we have one of the largest cities in the state.
Right.
And the great thing is we have an opportunity to do it right. Unfortunately, most cities in their growth periods, they don't start thinking about it until it's too late. And then they try to figure out, okay, now what do we do? And it's much harder because once you've urbanized, once you have urban sprawl or city environment, what do you do with your wildlife? And I've talked to too many cities that just found themselves in a bad place where the deer became a safety hazard. They had
Right.
too many accidents, and it was life-threatening to the residents. And other places where the deer just became a nuisance, eating up everybody's flowers in their yards because the deer had no place to go. So we have the opportunity to plan that, but it takes residents, it takes the city, it takes landowners all working together and buying into this vision to try to figure it out. So the city does have a parks, trails, and open space master plan that is, it's always evolving, right? It gets worked on and then it sits for a little bit and then it gets worked on some more.
Right.
And what we're trying to do with that is accommodate all interests, which makes it more challenging, right?
Yeah.
So if it was just one interest, it's already hard, but it simplifies it. But if you're trying to accommodate wildlife, so we have deer, we have birds, we have rabbits, coyotes, antelope, the list goes on and on, trying to accommodate them to an effectual degree, but still have places that people can ride their bikes, motorcycles, horses, run, walk, or just generally enjoy the outdoors. That's one of the things we learned from COVID
Right.
was how important it is to get outdoors for our emotional and physical health. And I mentioned earlier, I grew up at Lake Tahoe, and when I was a frustrated teenager, sometimes I had no one to talk to and had no answers, but what I could do is I could go out into the forest or into the mountains and things just seemed better. So can't totally explain it, but I know that it's important for our youth to be able to have those kind of connections. We don't want them limited to a very urban setting where the only place they have to hang out is, the 7-Eleven or the grocery store or things like that. They need to be able to be active and just get outdoors and enjoy it and understand it, learn from it. In this time, most of our youth are limited, and it's easy for them to just rely on their electronic devices and get locked on that, and that really shrinks their growing up experience. In fact, it wasn't too long ago, we had a young lady that came in to talk to the council about the mountain bike trails and talked about her brother, how this was, it was obviously very important to them. This is what got him out of the house, is being able to ride his bike on those trails and just being able to engage with nature and take a responsible role in accommodating it, protecting it, preserving it, and understanding it is really huge for our youth. And I hope that they can take those experiences that they garner here growing up, through the rest of their lives as a positive experience. And who knows, maybe one day they'll say, hey, in my city where I grew up in Eagle Mountain, this is how we did it. And so those are the kind of experiences that I hope our youth can have. But we have a very large valley. We still have a lot of trails to design. And when I say trails, I don't just mean a sidewalk along a busy street.
Right.
Yeah, I mean a natural experience that's inviting and pleasant and accommodating, makes allowances for wildlife. Where I live, even it's when I first moved in there, we frequently saw deer, and I noticed that just over the years they kind of tapered off. We didn't see them as much anymore, and so we need to look at what we can do. And speaking of what we can do, yes, developers are not the enemy. Landowners are not the enemy. Talk to them, get to know them, make them really like and want to invest in preserving that open space for recreation and wildlife, because it's not a real tough sell. Now, sometimes making the numbers work is a challenge, but it doesn't take a whole lot of effort. People naturally value that. They don't always know how to get there.
Right.
But if we work together, we can find ways to get there. And the more it becomes part of our identity, our brand, if you will, then it's expected. A developer coming here will say, hey, I've got this, I've been watching what's going on in Eagle Mountain. I got this great idea I want to try. What do you guys think?
Right.
Things like that. So it's not always density transfers, even though that will come up. But there are a lot of things we can do, and who knows? A lot of little things, if there's enough people involved, can add up to big things.
Yes.
For example, who would have thought? We have Todd Black with us here. We haven't had a chance to mention him, but but he was a real find. If you don't mind me just inserting a little bit about
do
Todd,
it, because I'm very grateful for Todd.
Yeah,
I tell him all the time, we prayed him and his job into existence in this city.
Yes. Well, for the longest time we were. It seemed like a long time anyway. We were relying on residents and Division of Wildlife, right? And we could have had Division of Wildlife here every single day. And they said, what? We have other areas to cover. So we can't do that. I lobbied everyone I knew at the city staff. Of course, the mayor has a little bit of influence, right? So I said, we need our own wildlife biologist. And we were just lucky to find Todd, and he's been a perfect fit because he knows a lot of people, he's seen a lot of stuff, he knows what he's talking about, and he can help sort things out for residents.
Yes.
And what's great, he's not a guy that just says, let's just find a way to take that land. No, he's a property rights guy, and so he loves wildlife. He loves the mule deer, but he has a great love for the Constitution as well. And so he's been a super asset for us. He can be places I can't be, and that's helped out a lot, and it's helped that education and information project. And it's the little things, the little projects that add up. Things like planting, vegetation that's complementary to our wildlife. Before we came in here, we were just talking about adding to, so there's been a little bit of a focus on some of the raptor birds, and,
Right.
and we need to continue that effort. There's been focus on the mule deer, collaring them so that the Division of Wildlife folks can track them and see where they go. And but there's layers to this, and it all adds up, and it creates a very interesting critical mass. And so we've been talking about the pollinators, the bees, the butterflies, and hummingbirds,
Yeah.
and things like that. And all of those things add up, and those are little things we can do to plant vegetation that's complementary to them. And it just, in the past, when I remember, back before Courtright Park was in, especially, I remember bringing people out and saying, okay, look at all this, picture this. And a lot of people would say, well, I see sagebrush. I don't know what you're talking about. But you start accommodating the wildlife, and it becomes part of your culture, and people notice and see it, and you become much more about much more than sagebrush. And we are one of the youngest cities in the nation. We raise a lot of kids here, so we want them to have good memories, good growing up experiences, and they can take part in it. They can, these kind of little projects, whether it's planting a tree or a bush or a flower or who knows, we know we're going to have a lot of projects as things continue to evolve, because this is a big endeavor made up of a lot of the little projects. So they will be able to say, hey, when I was growing up, they could bring their grandkids back and say,
Right.
I helped do this.
Yeah.
So
It instills a sense of pride in the community, for
yes,
sure. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that we all are feeling that we realize that as citizens of Eagle Mountain, we're breaking important ground here and accomplishing things that are going to be better for us as a community in our mental health, our physical health, and the environmental health. So I want to thank you for your participation.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I want to express my thanks to the Wildlife Alliance and all that you do. There's just, I can't be everywhere. Todd can't be everywhere, but this is an opportunity, you to really help engage residents and bring them in. And when somebody says, I'd like to help out, but I don't know what to do, I'm sure you have a list of
We
things.
do, most definitely.
But maybe we'll save that for another video. But thank you for inviting me, and love to talk more at another date if that opportunity arises.
Right. Thank you so much.